Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys have had a great day and a great weekend so far as we enter another work week starting tomorrow. In this evening's video, really, there isn't a ton to talk about, but we're going to talk about a couple things as far as what we could see the next 7 to 10 days weather-wise across the lower 48. And we're also going to start the video off by talking about the tropics. Alex is heading on out to the North Atlantic, is already starting to affect areas like Bermuda. Really, that's the only area it's affecting. And it looks actually pretty impressive on satellite right now. We'll take a look at it. It's a 65 mile per hour storm. It's not expected to become a hurricane. It's starting to enter basically environmental factors that are not going to provide much more development for it. But we're going to talk about it a little bit. But we're really going to talk about what could happen here in the next couple months as far as the tropics. We're in hurricane season now officially. So as we get a little bit deeper into the summer, we get towards the late summer, early fall, obviously we start to hit peak hurricane season. So we're going to talk about some factors. The European Seasonal Outlook came out, and we're going to take a look at that and what it's saying, and the fact that some things that it is saying is pointing to a much more above average hurricane season. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what we do know. I'm not big on trying to forecast hurricane season about, hey, there's going to be a hurricane that hits this area sometime in August. I'm not going to try to do that to you guys, but we're going to talk about what we do know. So if you guys have not subscribed, consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you got a Facebook, hit me up on Facebook. The link's right there. Twitter also. I know more people in general have Facebook, but Facebook is a big platform I'm trying to grow during these much slower times we're in right now, trying to get to 10,000 likes. I'm currently just shy of 5,000, so it would be huge and much appreciated if y'all did give my Facebook page a like. Other than that, if you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rolling. And honestly, there isn't a one specific event that we can latch on to this evening, but I really appreciate people tuning in regardless. Like I said, people who tune in when it's slower, because I tell you what, the viewership on the videos have gone down significantly, probably as low as it's been since fall of last year, which is cool. Expect it. Obviously, if the weather's not that active, what's the point of, tuning into the weather if it's not really affecting your area? I totally get it. But let's talk about what we do know. So right now, severe weather ongoing across the middle of the country. Tomorrow, you're going to have severe weather chances in the same areas. You got a slight risk up for all these areas you see right here. If you got a question about your specific town, city, definitely comment below. During these slower times, I can get much more detailed with answering your questions, as opposed to if it's January and I got about 200 comments of video, and I very rarely can give you a very detailed answer to your questions. But if you ever got questions, now in the slow time is really the time to do it. I had a great mention this morning saying, how about during the slow times you mention and break down some of the terms you use, like convection, capping, things like that. And I'm going to try to work on a video to try to do that for you guys. I'm not great at editing. Normally I hop on here and I screen record and I talk about the weather, then I hop on off. But hopefully as time goes by and I can do something like this full time, we can edit things and make things much better for you guys. But severe weather expected tomorrow for a large portion of the country. Tornado threats here, 2% risk in this region right here, and southwest areas of Kansas, areas of the Panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, and southeast Colorado. And then there's a 2% tornado risk right here, 25 miles, any given location, and portions of the Ohio Valley, Mid-South, places like that. There is also severe weather chances for your Tuesday, a slight risk, basically for the same kind of areas. It's a little bit more south in general, but it tells you there is just a pattern in place that is promoting severe weather for this part of the country. It's not super uncommon at all. We're in June, so you can still get severe weather. We're just in that time of the year where you start to lose favorable setups for severe weather outbreaks in general. So in general, you're just getting a pretty consistent pattern here where you get troughing and then you get ridging, and basically wherever these two air masses are kind of mashing, typically you get some form of severe weather. So if we go forward here in time, getting into your Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Day 4, which is for your Wednesday, not expecting anything. But Day 5, watch out. This is for your Thursday. Maybe some more severe weather across the middle part of the country, including Nebraska, areas of South Dakota, and areas of Nebraska. Kansas. So we need to watch out for that. So we'll talk a little bit more on that here in a second, but let's talk about the tropics really quick. So this is the latest at 5 p.m. Eastern Time update. So pretty much your latest update, hot off the presses here. We have a 65-mile-per-hour storm. I was wondering if it was going to even make it to a 45. Heck, I was wondering if it was going to even make it to a tropical storm, but it certainly has. You got Tropical Storm Alex, and you got tropical storm warnings up for Bermuda, and rightfully so. I tell you what, this thing looks very impressive on satellite. We'll take a look at it right now. The sun is starting to set on it from east to west. But this is a very impressive looking tropical storm. It's starting to lose, not really lose, but it's somewhat starting to kind of mash with a front. So it still has tropical characteristics with it, but it's definitely being enhanced by a frontal passage. This is kind of merging with this and just creating a much more dynamic environment for this. So it's strengthened today, and you can actually see where the core is this afternoon, and it's right here, and it's spinning rapidly, and it's moving quickly to the northeast. To the east-northeast right here, and it's going to move north of Bermuda, but Bermuda probably already getting some big-time waves and probably some showers and storms starting to move in. But you got to watch out in Bermuda overnight into tomorrow morning. This might have some sort of nasty tail of showers and storms, and I really think you're going to get some nasty weather in Bermuda overnight into tomorrow morning. We call it a jet sting, and sometimes this happens when a front mashes with a tropical system. It happened with like Hurricane Michael, for example, in Virginia, when you had Hurricane Michael come up, make landfall, move through Georgia, the Carolinas, and then just some mashing of dynamics with a frontal boundary. You basically had big time enhanced wind speeds. So you got to watch out for that. Not saying that's going to happen, but it could be happening right now out in Atlantic, but of course it's out in the middle of the ocean. One thing we want to talk about, and I'm not trying to make a seasonal forecast or anything like that at all, but what this is called the European seasonal pretty much outlook. So this is basically precipitation anomalies. Basically it's saying, is it going to be drier than normal or is it going to be wetter than normal? So the browns you see, that is predicted where it could potentially be drier than normal. The greens and definitely the blues, when you start to see the blues, that's way wetter than normal, right? So in general, you look at this, and this is what you call the main development region. So this is basically where you get these disturbances that come off North Africa, and then sometimes they can gain some steam, strengthen, and sometimes every once in a while, it doesn't seem like it happens as much anymore. I know here locally in the Carolinas, Hugo was a prime example of an entire Atlantic Ocean crosser that made it all the way through, turned into a hurricane, and basically originated off the coast of North Africa, made it all the way in, and made landfall obviously north of Charleston. So that's a big example of one of these hurricanes that crossed the entire Atlantic Ocean. But in general, you see these wetter than normal anomalies down here. It doesn't mean much because you got a lot of rain falling on the ocean, but what this is telling us is you're going to have disturbances. And this is June, July, and August all mashed together. You're going to have disturbances that are going to form more and more likely. So what this is saying is the main development region is going to be more active likely in this time frame, which we're already in this time frame. And then you also watch for the Caribbean. And you watch for these areas right here south of Florida, right near and just south of Cuba, the western tip of Florida, is saying that, hey, there's a possibility you could have some tropical systems that form in this area and then maybe move north. But this is the area you really watch. And really, this is the most concerning outlook right here. We start to get into July, August, and September, which becomes the more of the peak in the hurricane season, especially August and September. If you guys got any questions of what I'm talking about here, because the thing is I'm always growing when making these videos, and the way I explain things, I'm always trying to get better with it. So if you got any questions, remember, I got plenty of time to answer them, guys. Not plenty of time, but it's a lot slower right now, so I can take some time to answer some questions. But this is July, August, and September right here. You see this? And still wetter than normal anomalies out here. It's basically saying, hey, there's going to be more precipitation out here. So what it's saying is, hey, more tropical systems are likely forming out here. And you see in general, you have wetter than normal anomalies right in this area. So it's saying, hey, you know, maybe some tropical moisture into the Gulf of Mexico is possible. When I say tropical moisture, I mean the potential for tropical systems, that this could be in the form of tropical systems is what I'm trying to say. And then you get into the prime time, August, September, and October. And listen, the entire tropics is above average precipitation wise. The Gulf of Mexico, besides this one little area right here, the Caribbean, the main development region is what you call here in short, you call it the MDR. So you have to watch out for cross ocean riders here, that basically these tropical systems make the entire trek across the tropics and get and start to threaten the Caribbean islands and Greater and Lesser Antilles and places like that. So this could be dangerous. You know, this could be a dangerous hurricane season. Any hurricane season is dangerous, but it's already predicted. In fact, the revised update from the people out in Colorado, I always think it's funny that the professionals are out in Colorado that forecast the hurricanes, but they already revised their latest update, and they're calling for even a more above average hurricanes this year. I don't remember the numbers. I feel like they're calling for 20 hurricanes, or either it's 19. Some kind of number is major, but in general, that's a lot of hurricanes. So, or either they said 20 named systems. Correct me if I'm wrong in this in the comments, guys. But it's going to be active regardless. This hurricane season, I'm definitely expecting it to be above average here as far as tropical systems. But another thing you can look at here is basically the seasonal sea surface temperature anomalies. And when you start to see above average sea surface temperature anomalies, remember, warmer sea surface temperatures is better for tropical systems. They need the warm water at the surface. So, you know, well below the surface of the ocean is obviously going to be cold, right? The deeper you go, the colder water is. It's like when you jump in a lake, you dive, you go deeper and deeper. If you pencil dive into a lake, the water's colder the further below you get below the surface. So in this case, them sea surface temperatures, right? How warm are they going to be? Well, it's saying slightly above average for basically the entire area. Now, some areas are just in white saying, hey, maybe just average. But average is supported for tropical systems when you get in August, September, and October. And really, you watch out for October in the Gulf of Mexico. That sometimes can be a dangerous time period for the Gulf of Mexico. But in general, it's saying, hey, you know, there's splotches of areas where you can have above average sea surface temperatures in these areas right here. So we need to watch out for that. So we look at in real time, not real time necessarily, but here between now and the next 15 days, are we seeing anything we need to worry about? Well, not likely. The only thing that I'm seeing, you're not going to see probably anything out in the main development region. That normally doesn't get fired up until about July, when you start to get the monsoon season off the coast of North Africa, and some of those disturbances that come off the coast of North Africa can develop in the tropical systems. But that doesn't happen right now. Normally the Saharan dust limits that. But as we get more into July and especially August, that's when we start to watch out for that. But really, we look into the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, basically the entire Southwest Atlantic, and we see what could happen here. And really, you don't see much. We're getting into next weekend. The only thing I see is maybe some CAG, Central American gyromes, basically when, you know, you get the disturbances in the Central America that can sometimes drift into the Pacific side or the Atlantic side, and then that is when they can develop into a tropical system. And, you know, the GFS flirts with that idea, but in general, I think ridging on top up here will likely limit anything getting into the Atlantic side. But we'll see. But, you know, 240 hours out, which is 10 days out, very unreliable time period when it comes to the models, do show some kind of tropical system in the Pacific side. The European doesn't really show anything. Remember, the European is the much more responsible model so far, but it doesn't really show anything. It does show a lot more moisture on the Pacific side, and I do think there's going to be a little bit of ridging that kind of bogs down into the Gulf of Mexico that might allow for anything that does form. And here's a low pressure forming right here to stay on the Pacific side. So I think that'll save the Atlantic side. So I don't see anything to worry about in the tropics basically through about mid to probably the latter part of June, which, you know, you normally don't see a whole lot in June anyways. But let's talk about what could happen across the lower 48. I'm not expecting any big systems or anything like that. But if you look at the temperatures, the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the National Weather Service, the Climate Prediction Center. Hey, if you like below average temperatures in the summer, which I know I do, the Ohio Valley saying either slightly below average to below average temperatures in the Ohio Valley between the 11th and 15th, which is basically all the way through mid-month. Some troughing might cool you guys down, but big time ridging in the west will likely allow for a much above average temperatures in the southwest of the U.S. and then areas of the south central U.S. If we get to the 8 to 14 day range, I'm starting to think, and there's a lot of hints on it on the mid to long range, that we're going to have some big time ridging over at least the middle part of the country. And there is the potential for a big time heat wave between the 13th and 19th. I'm talking about widespread hundreds. Let's hope not, but well above average temperatures. Watch out, Dallas Fort Worth, as you get into the mid to latter part of June. I really think we're going to get some big time ridging into this part of the country, which means above average temperatures. So this is basically saying, hey, there's a 70 to 80% chance of above average temperatures in this area. And we're getting to that time of the year where above average temperatures is pretty hot for the south. So big time troughing starting to show up for the west. We'll see how that plays out. But the GFS, as far as temperatures shows it, we're not going to go out too far. We'll go about 10 days out. But really not super hot weather for anybody unless you live in Texas. You guys continue to suffer. Dallas Fort Worth continues to get hit hard with this. But going forward here, I don't see any big time warm weather, any big time cool weather. This is getting into Thursday. 90s starting to creep for the deep south. It's starting to warm up. You're starting to lose any kind of dry air you did have. And we're getting into Friday, getting into the weekend, and then maybe another cold front, which is why the 6 to 10 day outlook for this part of the country says below average temperatures are possible. Maybe another cold front might bring some more dry air, some slightly cooler temperatures for areas of the central and eastern part of the country. We'll see how much this cold front digs, but for example, this is for next Sunday morning. Maybe some widespread 60s and 50s again. It was a beautiful morning across the Carolinas this morning. Very dry air, temperatures only in the 50s and 60s for lows. You want to hang on to that for as long as possible, because we're going to get to the dog days of summer in July and August, and you're not going to see this for a long time. But a nice temperature. Now some of this looks like rain cooled air, but we get into next weekend. There's a potential, if you live in the eastern U.S., maybe a nice weekend as far as temperatures. Maybe a cooler weekend, not necessarily cooler to the touch, but cooler compared to average. So moving forward, this is when some nasty heat starts to show up about 8 to 9 days out. You're starting to get widespread hundreds, deep into the hundreds, into the south central U.S., including Oklahoma, Texas, and this is some awful heat showing up. Let's hope this does not verify, but this is a nasty ridge showing up, and this eventually moves east like most ridges do. And I mean, look at this. This is for around June 15th, widespread 90s and 100-degree readings here. So let's hope this does not play out, because I don't think anybody's AC units is going to like that too much. But in general, you look at this, and to me, this symbolizes a northwest flow event. Well, I won't say event, but a northwest flow basically when it comes to storms for areas of the southeast and mid-Atlantic. The orange you see is ridging. The blue is what we call troughing, which is, just think of it as a cold front. So this is the ensemble run from the European model. And going through here in time, we're getting into this week. And here comes that cool down for the mid-Atlantic with a little bit of a trough moving into the eastern U.S. This will cool us down. But big time ridging showing up for the southwest and the western U.S. in general. But storm track will likely be along this axis where the trough sets up and the ridging is. So there's probably going to be rounds of storms in this area. That's why the Storm Prediction Center highlights a lot of regions in this area for severe weather as we get later into the week. And then we get into this weekend, and maybe this nice little trough begins to dip down into the eastern U.S. as a whole. And I think that this will bring us likely a cooler than average weekend across the entire eastern U.S. Cool to the point where you can't get in your swimming pools for the southeast? Absolutely not. But, it's going to be probably a little bit less humidity, and then temperatures probably only in the 80s and 70s. So moving past this, likely some ridging will set up, and we'll get kind of more of a zonal flow. and then I think a more widespread ridge will set up over the middle part of the country. But areas to the east might be safe from this, but the middle of the country, if this verifies, will be under the influence of a death ridge, which in the weather community, that means well above average temperatures. So it's something we need to watch out for. As far as showers and storms, you'll notice something we get into about mid to late week. Watch out as this ridge builds right here, and then all the showers and storms move northwest to southeast. And normally when you have a ridge kind of in the middle of the country, or even in the southwest, this brings storms out of the northwest. So we'll have to see. This could bring strong, severe storms, especially as we get into this weekend. Maybe a rainy weekend along with the cooler than average temperatures, but we just have to see. It's just one of them things where you kind of have to look at each day 24 hours out and try to figure out what the weather's going to do for that specific day. But that's pretty much all I got. There's no point in looking too much further ahead. It's just that time of the year where there's not a lot to talk about. I don't even know how I just made a 21-minute video talking about what I did. But if you guys stuck it through, appreciate y'all listening to my rambling. God bless everybody. Hope you guys have an awesome start to your work week, and I'll have you a video in the morning.